Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, here we are again, another week's show with Stephen Dickson. And my God, as always, I keep saying it, I have to say it again, it just flies by. I'm not sure whether that's because I'm getting older or because things are starting to happen. But the beautiful thing now, beautiful sunshine, things are looking better. I've had my second jab. So I'm really, really, really looking forward now to getting back out there. So, Steve, lovely to see you again, my friend. I understand you've had your jab as well.
I have indeed. Yes. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Little spring in my step as a result. In fact, I have to say, it is. People sort of walk in a little bit. No, I wouldn't say cautious or nervous, but you see when they walk out. I mean, people are quiet. They're sort of very mindful of social distancing and standing apart. When they walk out, they almost walk out with a little jump in there, a little skip in the step as they come out. So clearly, it does a lot for not just, I think, the physical or the health aspects, Chris, in terms of protecting the community. It does a massive amount for their mental well-being as well. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Touch wood, no side effects, all good thus far.
No, it's brilliant, isn't it? And the numbers that they're pushing out are fantastic, amazing.
It's phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. I said to the girls there, actually, I was quite taken aback. I'd said to everybody, I said, "Oh, thanks for your efforts and thanks for your hard work." I said, you girls are doing an amazing job. And she said, "Oh, that's so nice to hear." I said, "I'll be telling everyone." He said that. I said, "Oh, but surely everybody tells you that, don't they?" And she said, "Well, you'd be surprised. Maybe people think it, but they don't always say it." So word of advice for listeners: if you do think that the vaccinators or the NHS teams or whatever in your country do an excellent job, just tell the girls when you go and get your vaccine done. It costs nothing. It makes them feel pretty good about what they're doing. So it'll be well received, I'm sure.
Yeah, and funny enough, what you're saying there, I went to a local house that serves food and drink on Thursday.
A public house, Chris.
A public house, correct. You followed the train of thought, and I had a lovely meeting with somebody there, and there was a load of youngsters, and the service was terrible. Not because it was meant to be terrible or it was the food or anything like that, just because all these youngsters had never done it before. And it was the first day of things coming back again. And what you just said there, I think everybody also now needs a little more patience and a little bit more recognition of people now who are doing things that we've missed for so long. Just to say thank you. And all I said was, must be your first day. I was only joking, but it was. And then we had a little bit of a laugh, but it was great. And it's so nice to see people and hear people laughing again and seeing them out in the sunshine. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was. I felt that I was out yesterday. I had a period of isolation to do again, which I'm getting quite accustomed to. And then a test to release, which I did. So when I got out, it was a few days out. It wasn't on the Saturday. So it was a few days after people had already been going about since Monday, so they're a bit more accustomed to it. But it was so good to hear people, really, and actually, in London, for those that know London as a city, generally the sort of the mood in London, or the sort of the normal mode of operation is keep your head down, keep walking, don't look people in the eye, never sit on the tube and look at the fellow opposite you. You just mind your own business and stay quiet. It was completely the antithesis of that the other day. It's completely the opposite. It was people were out engaging, they're talking to one another. People didn't know each other, saying, "Hi, this is great, it's fantastic, isn't it wonderful?" And it felt really good. That just shows you, Chris, I think the damage that has been done. Of course, touch wood. Not touch wood, but the impact people that have sadly expired from COVID is very sad. But those that are here and fitting well physically, the damage mentally has been much more than I think than anybody would ever have imagined. And it just goes to show a simple little release like that, a simple, symbolic change of either getting to the pub or the symbolic nature of getting the vaccine, what that does to people's overall well-being is it shouldn't be underestimated.
It's incredible. It's amazing. And talking about weather and people feeling and everything, I think it would be remiss not to mention again the funeral of Prince Philip yesterday. What an incredible spectacle and event, and it was amazing for so many reasons. And for anybody that might be listening to this who's not British or doesn't appreciate some of some of the issues that we hold so dear, I just think it's impossible not to talk about it, Steve. I mean, I just felt it was absolutely first class, 100% class, and it was the right thing to do for the right man at the right time.
It was amazing, Chris, and I think you're right. I think there are people that might not, even in this country, let alone outside, that might not respect the monarchy for whatever reason, or agree with the monarchy and its position within our society. But for those that do, which I think is the absolute overwhelming majority, it was a spectacle to behold yesterday, and I think it was very fitting tribute to Prince Philip. I don't think he would have actually probably, I mean, I didn't know the fella, but from what I understand of him and hearing his friends, people like Giles Brandreth that knew him personally for many, many years, and Giles is a very respected commentator on the subject, but Philip was a no fuss kind of chap, and he probably would have benefited, I suspect, from the COVID restrictions, which meant that it was a reduced size and funeral, because he said famously to Giles Brandreth, who, when discussing his funeral arrangements, I mean, he's supposed to have 800 people in attendance normally in St. George's Chapel. He said, I won't know the majority of them, and they won't know the majority of me, so why the bloody hell should they be there? And that's quite right. I mean, yeah. What other funeral would you invite, kind of, let's say, I wouldn't say hangers on, but would you invite people that you don't know to, or would attend that you don't know? I mean, it's a very unusual event for a person, other than a person held in very high regard, but it was very emotional, Chris. It brought to mind, all of the achievements of Prince Philip when they were reading out his roles and titles. He was a man's man, and they don't make them like that anymore. But very poignant. It was very emotive. It was very moving. I was very emotional, I have to confess, watching it. And of course, with British military precision, to the second. Yeah. Which I think was fabulous. I have to say, all of our thoughts, of course, go to Her Majesty the Queen, who we know was obviously, she looked a little bit tender.
It was such a you just wanted to put your hand on hers or hold
COVID restrictions or none, I would have given her a hug.
Yeah, but sitting there on her own, walking in on her own, and it just, but again, it goes to the mark of a woman.
It does bring into question, Chris, why that is still the case, why we can only have 30 people at a funeral when you can have hundreds of thousands of people meeting in Soho and now drinking at the weekend.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, these restrictions now are perverse, and there are more and more exceptions that are coming out, more and more oddities with these restrictions that we just need to get rid of it now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I shouldn't say that. I was going to say I do agree with you for once. I do agree with you on many things, and that's now another thing on the list. It does not make sense to see that many people in and out of pubs, restaurants, even certain venues, and then you have that. I don't think that makes sense at all.
There are people sitting together at the Crucible today watching the snooker, Chris.
Yeah, and also at football as well today.
Bizarre. So I think that's very cruel indeed. And it's not just affect the royal family; it's everybody. I mean, everybody's gone through some similar things.
Yeah, but it's what they did was absolutely incredible. And another thing as well is even the people that turned up in Windsor and every other venue that they thought was close. It was about people, not about color or religion or age, or it was about people. And I thought that was nice that people came together. And I got a lovely picture sent to me, by the way. I've got to say, is a gentleman that I've known for a long, long time, Bala, who used to work with Emirates, and he used to coach the cricket team. And he's got pictures of him and Prince Philip.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, but really wonderful. But the thing that stood out, every single picture I've seen from people that I know that have met him or been with him, him, and everybody else is smiling.
He brought a smile to people's faces. He did.
They're all smiling. Yeah, but they're all smiling. Anybody that's around close to him, they're all smiling. So he definitely had a way about him. It was brilliant.
I think so. I think they said, obviously, if you were in his company or you were fortunate, privileged enough to meet him or the Queen, obviously it can be a very nerve-wracking experience. I mean, some young fellas you see faint before they sort of get the hand out to shake, in pre-COVID times. But everybody, all the commentators said that Prince Philip had such a way about him. He just put the room completely at ease. So people were afraid of this, very imposing gentleman. He had a real presence in a room. And of course, they sort of cautioned, I wish I'd got the Queen rather than Prince Philip, But the minute that the Prince Philip came along and put them at ease and started cracking jokes and being very friendly with them, they realized that actually they'd done all right way to get Prince Philip, didn't they? So I think big loss to the country, big loss to the Commonwealth, and the biggest loss to obviously Her Majesty the Queen.
Yeah, and there's something. Oh yeah, I mean that goes without saying. But there is something sad, isn't there, when something or somebody that, whether or not people realise at the time or not, has made such an impact on so many for so long, is suddenly then gone. Because, like most records, they don't all get broken again. And how, it'd be very difficult now for any member of any royal family to actually last that long.
Well, I don't think we'll ever. I think we'll never see this again, Chris. I mean, well, I would see it in my lifetime, but I don't think we, as a nation, as a country, as a peoples, will see this again. He has been enduring. Most people have been born and died in the time that Prince Philip has been a public servant. He's served in public life for more than 80 years, Chris. When he first started off as a young military man in his teens, before he got involved in, with I say involved, that sounds so, got involved with the Queen, before he romantically got involved with Her Majesty or Princess Elizabeth at the time. I don't think anybody could compete with more than 80 years public service. That to me seems second to none. So no, hats off to him. I thought it was a great send off. I loved the quirkiness about some of the mementos or
I love the way they went up the stairs. The way they went up the stairs with the coffin.
I think the whole nation was holding their breath at that point. I had a few text messages going, "Are you watching the funeral? Can you see the stairs?" Oh my goodness, those lads are strapping young lads, clearly, and they all did a grand job. Very fitting send off.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. One really sad bit though was, I don't know, we mentioned it, is his carriage with the horses, and got his gloves and his cap on the seat. That was terrible.
If you weren't crying,
because animals they got an incredible bond.
That, I'm afraid, that set me off. I was completely choked up at that stage, because knowing that Prince Philip was not only a horseman, he was a professional equestrian.
Yeah, he represented Great Britain.
He competed for his country, yeah. As did his daughter, as is his granddaughter. They're all. It's a great equestrian sort of line of bloodline. But seeing the hat on his riding hat on the seat, and his blanket and his riding gloves. And the sugar barley for the horses. He has got a special. He'd bring a sugar barley for the horses, which is very naughty, I suppose. But that just shows you the kind of character that he was and the bond that he had with the horses. And that was a part for me. I'm afraid I was not able to speak for quite a few minutes after seeing that.
Well, there's another first. That's another thing that Prince Philip has managed to do. He didn't even realise that one. But yeah, but also
the other first, of course, was as Hugh Edwards said on the BBC, for the first and last time, he was out in front of his wife.
Yeah.
Oh, because he always walked 2 steps behind. So for the first time, the Queen was following in the footsteps of her husband, and it will be the last time also. But very poignant. But I think that's really an end of an era, Chris. End of an era.
Yeah. But what a spectacle! What a for anybody watching it around the world, to see Windsor Castle in its glory like that, and the countryside. My God, if ever he did something as well to advertise the country and for tourism, that'll be it.
Well, I think they're not far from you. They're your neighbours are almost. But no, great. I mean, I think it really puts a spotlight on Windsor. Obviously, been important to the royal family for many years, generations. But I think this really puts the spotlight more so on Windsor now than most people would think that Buckingham Palace is the home. Yeah. And Windsor, of course, is a town that the royal borough that gives its name to the royal family.
Yeah, Yep. 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 Yeah, that's and that I've actually started brushing up on my history there, and you just talking about the royal family, and I was reading about how Mountbatten tried to change the name and things like that. It's very interesting. It's an incredible line, and how the people got to where they were and what they've had to endure and do and stuff. I've got nothing but praise and respect, and I'm definitely a royalist.
I'll buy that flag any day, Chris.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Interesting. I outside my house is the I look straight onto the United States Embassy, and of course the flags have been at half mast, for the last since the period of mourning was declared last Friday, 8 days. So of course the flag's now back at full staff again, at full mast. So
yeah,
it sort of just it was poignant waking up this morning seeing the flag had been raised. After seeing the flags at half mast. And actually, Chris, I saw yesterday all of the flags in Ireland, nation close to you, on state buildings were at half mast as well, which caused a little bit of controversy on the island of Ireland.
Yeah, but I think at times when like somebody has made such an impact and has done what they've done, all those other issues, it's always good to put them to one side.
Oh, I think, the silent majority, of course, win out normally, but of course the Twitteratis would not have you believe that.
Yeah, but that's something that's crazy. But I'll tell you what though, Steve, something you just said there as well. You just said the flag has now gone up. One thing about death is that everything else carries on, and it's that's what I think that's one of the most horrible things. I can remember sitting with a real close friend of mine. We had a very, very close friend, and God bless him, I still miss him. And he was a goalkeeper, and we all worked for Lufthansa, and he dropped dead on the football field, walking off, to let a younger goalkeeper come on. And it was it's just terrible, unexpected, awful thing. But when we were at his funeral, and it was in Germany, the chairman of the club, when he gave his speech in German, he was straight to the point, and he was somber and everything. But when he gave it in English, he was filling up, and tears were rolling down his face. It was so sad. And a friend of mine said to me on the left, he said, when I die, he said, I want a funeral like this. I said, what? He said, yeah, I want loads of people like this. He said, and I want them all to be sad. And I said, phew. And he said to me, what about you? I said, no. I said, when I go, I don't want anybody there. And he said, what? I said, yeah, no. I said, because I want to outlive them all, mate. I said, I don't want to go that early that everybody knows me, turns up. And he went, oh, yeah. But the sad thing is, whatever age it is, it's never long enough. And once you're gone, everything else carries on. So people, again, now with this shock we've had, and who was it? It was Callum Hogg, didn't he? Callum said about words that we were using that we don't want to hear unprecedented again, and he's right, because there's been so many unprecedented things, and there's going to be more unprecedented things. But the thing is, people should start being a little bit more lighthearted, I think, and a little bit more appreciative of what you've got, no matter what it is, because it's better than nothing.
Well, I think that's that would be Prince.
That's not
Philip.
Too deep, is it?
No, Prince Philip would agree with you entirely, I think, Chris. No nonsense. Put up, shut up, don't complain, and let's get on with life. My view, Prince Philip lived a very long life of great achievements. My view is slightly more philosophical than maybe yours, Chris, which is I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So I want to cram as much into as short a space of time as possible, because you never know. You never know when those events might happen. So I don't long or short. As long as you maximize and fulfill, and one creates their own opportunities. Opportunities don't present themselves to you. You create opportunities, and therefore, if you're not willing to do so, not willing to get out of bed in the morning and roll up your sleeves and work hard, then don't have a whinge about it.
It's a little bit like luck, isn't it? People always say, "Oh, he's lucky" or whatever, but
no,
the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Funny that. What comes first, the luck or the work?
Exactly.
Which is the product of which?
Yeah. And now talking about luck, talking about what you do with your life, and talking about things that are clearly not good at the moment and are a waste of time, waste of effort, and are causing people a lot of frustration. Border posts, queues at airports, holy mother of Moses, what's going on, Stephen?
Well, I sampled this myself, Chris, and I have to confess, I experienced no queues whatsoever. It might have been that I strategically checked the Heathrow schedules to see what time I would best placed to arrive, such that I would avoid queues, and I did so. And it was around 9:15 in the morning for those that want to come into Heathrow. But if you, I think if you're on the very early morning arrivals from the transatlantics, you might struggle for a while. But of course, the queues are building as the day goes on, Chris. I have to confess, the process, I mean, some people, oh, it's complex. You've got to pay for these tests. You've got to do this. Well, if you don't want to pay for the test, don't travel. Very straightforward. So don't complain. If you want to travel, pay for the test. If you then don't fill in or complete the relevant test or paperwork prior to travel, the PCR test prior to travel, the passenger locator form prior to travel, if you don't have all of that completed and filled and ready for the agent at your departure station, you'll be subject to delays. Very straightforward. If you arrive at Heathrow, as I did, and we came off the jet, we arrived in Terminal 5, I flew in on Iberia from Madrid, and there was half a dozen border police agents at the top of the boarding gate. Please have your paperwork out. Also, we were told by the cabin crew before we landed, reminded, have all your documents out. Please get them out. Do you think these thick skulls in public, members of the public heads, that information went in there? So, of course, they got to the top of the line. I was one of the first off. In fact, I think I was the first off, and I had all of my documents.
What they had rear deloading, did they? You were able to get out from the back of the plane, were you?
Never fails to amaze me, Chris, that you think that I would fly in economy. Anyway,
short or long time, but a good time.
That's right. So the officers were there, and of course, I said to the lad, I said, "Well done." So I see all the flack that you're getting, that you've been getting, in the press. Said, but hey, look, great work. Keep it the good work. I realised then that if this was happening at every point prior to the border, then they're only checking the passport at the border because they're already pre-checked everything. They're not allowing people to get to the border without the correct documentation. So, because what happens is that builds up over the day.
Yeah.
So when I got to the border, although there was a queue, I was out in 5 minutes, Chris. I waited longer for my bag from bloody British Airways ground handling than I did, in the entire immigration process. So it's people that cause the process to fail. If you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail.
Yeah.
And if you want to go and talk to the Sun or the Daily Mirror or some other crappy newspaper about how terrible border force are or how terrible Heathrow Airport is, it's only terrible because people like you and your peers and your cohorts haven't followed the rules. If you follow the rules, you should get out. So I'm afraid to say that I suspect, Chris, these problems at the border will not get any easier after May the 17th, because we will have more countries to which people can travel on the green list.
Yeah.
There's similar requirements still, although I do think, having got, vaccination papers and all my documents now here, I'm, although I'm still waiting for it, I've got a blank spot for the second, unlike you, but different category, Chris.
Pardon me?
You're in a different category. That's a fact. That's a fact. So I do think that we will see, with the green list creating more opportunities to travel, and still with the testing required, you'll still require the PLF and the documentation and the confirmation. That might still create some bureaucracy. But I think the government are minded to look at that again. I'm hearing some sort of snippets that they're looking at that again, which would be a good thing. So let's wait and see. But look, I mean, I think for everybody, if they can't help border force, do their job, then they've only got themselves to blame, Chris. And if you don't want the prospect of a 3 or 4 or 5 hour queue, I mean, average queues are, say, as Chris Garton said this week. Chris Garton, the CEO or CSO of Heathrow, Chris said this week that average waits are about 2 hours. And so I did very well to get out in 5 minutes. But there have been some waits at 6 or 7 hours. That is entirely unacceptable. But if you're not willing to face the prospect of such a delay, don't travel. don't whinge. You know that this is likelihood, and therefore you just have to suck it up and get on with it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but also
fly into somewhere like Luton or Stansted or Birmingham, whereby there's likely to be much less traffic and therefore less queues. Up to you.
But equally, something has to be done about the process and how they link everything together. Eventually.
Oh, I think so, Chris. I mean, look, in Spain, it's very straightforward. The SPTH app, the Spain Travel Health app, was up since middle of last year. I've used it frequently, been in and out, and it works really well. And you have a QR code that they scan on your way at the health checkpoint prior to going into the reclaim. Of course, it's in Spain. It's like different. Immigration for non-Schengen is done at the arrivals gate, as you know, Chris. But so the flows are a little bit different, maybe a little bit slightly easier rather than consolidated central immigration point. But nonetheless, there are technology solutions available. They've been out in the market. They're not new. It's time for people to, this will probably be the case, I suspect, for 6 months, Chris. I think we will still have some form of adjusting parameters for countries to move from green to amber or amber to green, etc. Pray not red. Although 24 flights arrived from India again yesterday without not being on the red list, which seems slightly peculiar to me.
Yeah, especially with what's going on over there, and also with this new double variant. And
that's right.
That's what I don't understand. Why things take so long when it's out in the public domain? It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it seems bizarre. It also seems bizarre that that we can't have this sort of very sort of strategically they talk about lots, they give lots of plans and roadmaps, but the tactical element of the quick decision making is lacking, and governments normally are not quick to make decisions, and I'm happy that they're not quick to make decisions on which vaccines to pump out, and scientists do, that's really helpful. But when the evidence is presented and it's in front of them, one would think that the logical thing to do is to consult, review, and then decide.
But we've also said many times, Stephen, that there should be milestones, there should be triggers, and there should be automatic decision making if something goes across or above those triggers or milestones, and everybody's aware of it. So if it goes above it, so that's it, stop straight away.
Well, that's it, and rightly so, Chris. The public should also not expect it, because when they left to go somewhere, it was green.
Exactly.
It will be automatically green when they come back.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Now,
original responsibility.
Very good. Endorsed. I also just want to reiterate again, we were planning to make certain recognition of positive things that happened as well during COVID. And even a few tongue-in-cheek awards, but we both decided it'd be best not to do that one day after the funeral, and that's why we've not done it. But we will attempt to do that next week. But on the note of things that happened positively and words, etc., which is what we did on the negative side a couple of weeks ago, there has been some good things, Steve, and things that have advanced now. I think everybody's approach, and also the way things are managed and the way people will start to look at business now moving forward. So things like, obviously, and it's a very easy word to use, but collaboration. So there has been a lot more collaboration, and there's been a lot more support, even from within, respective peer sectors. So carriers helping carriers, GHAs helping GHAs, etc. It's been really positive, I think, and it's been something that's a breath of fresh air for people to start collaborating more. Do you agree?
I do agree, Chris. And it goes in fits and starts, I guess. It's not yet universal.
Exactly. And it's also, and also, not to be too cynical, but it's selective.
It's selective, and it's often self-serving. Okay,
right. So now we're getting it out now. So,
well, let's take an example. Our friend Akbar was recorded yesterday saying that British Airways was a 2 out of 10 LCC. Is that helpful to those at British Airways, that management that have struggled to keep that business afloat, that have done all the right actions, that have taken all the right decisions, that has had to sadly affect all of those staff. Those are very careless words for a man who is generally very well respected in industry to use. So Caterham also owns 20% of IG, British Airways Parent Company, of course. A very weird thing for a shareholder to say that has massive impact across the city, across the investor base, who we need to be shoring up that confidence right now. So I would say there are careless words used by some very capable people in this industry, including esteemed individuals like himself. That does not show the spirit of collaboration or working together.
As a shareholder, I'm not looking forward to the impact of the downward spike.
I'm also a shareholder, and I bought recently and made a lot of money because of the share price when it was sitting at rock bottom. But I'm not sure what happened on Friday.
So it gives you a chance now to buy some more next week because the price will have gone down.
We must just say, in terms of our compliance with the financial regulator, Financial Conduct Authority, we are not authorised to give investment advice on this programme, Chris.
And your investments can go down as well as up.
It's up. Thanks, Chris. I've always wanted to do that. That's great.
Yeah. So that was that word. Now, one organisation that I think has done very, very well is ICAO, with the speed in which that they made amendments to certain safety guidelines, regulations, etc., and none better than the Preighters, which allowed people to do something that was logical, obvious, but people were phoning around each other asking, how do you do it? What's the best way, etc. Yeah. And now it just goes to show as well how creative, innovative, and agile and resilient our industry is, because now people have mastered it with extra equipment coming in now on the sequence. There's less people involved in it now. It's great what they're doing.
I think that's really good. That's really. I mean, it was pretty neat when it was first introduced, and we all thought, well, how long will this last? Is there a sustainable? Of course, we never knew that COVID would last 12 months either. Of course, I guess when we went into the first lockdown in March last year. But no, it was, Chris. I mean, I remember the conversation that you and I were having because of some of our clients and what they were asking us to help them with, and of course, remember at those times there was lots of unknowns.
Yep.
And I remember the biggest challenge being resourcing, because the Preighters required 25, 30 men, human chains, no equipment to serve that operation. It was very costly to handle, although it was only a lifeline that airlines potentially had, so they had to invest in the resourcing to make that work. Whereas now we've got some really smart, innovative, capable businesses that have created bespoke GSE. I've seen these mats, these great mats in the floor.
Yeah.
These sort of trolleys that like sort of Royal Mail would use, conveyors in the cabin. These snake trolleys that people push through. I mean, it really I think the guys, I don't know if it was at Malahan or Aviramp, they had put the chutes on side of the stairs, the additions onto the. I mean, it's really brilliant to see all of this that's been done, but actually also that a lot of these examples have been shared across the ground handling and airline community.
Yeah, and even now, some of these seat covers. I don't know if anybody's seen the KLM
seat covers or the seat packs. Remember the old seat packs that we used to have, Chris? It used to go over like a couple,
Yeah.
It's sort of I've not seen a seat pack for years, but it's sort of come back again with these
Yeah, and it makes you wonder whether or not there'll be like hybrid services in the future if the passenger numbers don't actually get up. It'd be like a sort of a modern day combi,
a modern day KLM 747 combi.
Yeah,
which we always used to have to offload that bloody aircraft. We always used to have to offload the freight first out the back of the let business class off.
Yeah, keep the people there.
Otherwise. We'd end up on its arse. Yeah. So the punters always used to hate operating the combi because the punters would all have to wait half an hour before we got the freight off.
But that's another thing as well. Our industry is so good at doing, but not telling and not making people understand why. And I remember the amount of times I've been, and you get the same about why we got to wait. What's the problem? Why we have to wait here now? Why can't we get off? It's the telling people why that's so important and at the right time and preparing them. So like you just said, if you don't want to be in a minimum of a 2 hour queue, then don't go. But if you need to go and you understand it, it's part of the process. It's part of the process. Part of the process.
Phones are charged, water in the bottle, got some snacks, got a couple of bits of food, providing you meet quarantine regulations, of course. But prepare.
Yeah.
It's not actually that a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But preparation is key to actually conducting most events successfully, as we saw yesterday.
Yeah, no, I agree. And another hugely positive is our own industry journalists. I think they did a great job. I think a great job in explaining what was going on, in being quite positive, in being very positive, in focusing on a lot of facts. And I think some of them in particular, they're absolutely sterling and an example to the general journalism, which has always been, or not always, but has been very negative and always focusing on the negative, which is a terrible thing. It just makes people feel worse. And I've got to say, the journalists and the ones I'm thinking of now, they did a great job. Great job. And I've got to say, there's two ladies in particular. Alex from Lodestar and Thelma. They've done a great job. Brilliant.
The mainstream media could take a leaf out of their book then, Chris, if that's the case, I suspect.
Oh yeah, I think so. And especially something that's so important, why keep picking away at it? You need to bolster it and give it a little bit of a cast and support, and then get it back to the way it should be again. Not all that negativity. I think it's awful. Which brings me to the word care. The word care. And I think people generally do care. And what I think is nice, Steve, even though it's probably not as active as we thought it might have been, but the Skylight Care, it's given people, it definitely gave people some comfort, some options, and some people have now got jobs as a result of the contacts, and also some people have taken initiatives where when they're training, they're allowing a certain proportion of free seats, or some of the revenues going to good causes, and people need to care more. Indeed.
I think on a whole that's true, Chris. I think there are small pockets, where we haven't seen sort of optimal, let's say, behaviors, but they will always exist, and they always exist in small part.
Yes.
And so, I do think that as we said, the right action, the right communication, the right engagement with everyone, and as you rightly said earlier, to explain why, that helps people understand. They might not necessarily agree always, but it helps them understand at least. And as long as you sort of, you treat people, I always say, you treat people in the way in which you would expect to be treated oneself. That's the end game. And if you can't do that, then probably not a particularly pleasant human being in general terms. And therefore keep your mouth shut and just live in your little bubble, and we'll get on with ours.
Yeah. And talking about care, I think also now people need to care about the safety and the reputation and the long record of safety that we've got in this industry. And they've got to, the accountability word is so important. And what I'm talking about is that recent fire of cargo on the ramp in Hong Kong. And God forbid what would have happened if that had been on an aircraft. So, I think people now, even as tough as it is to get back into business, commercial must not be the be all and end all of how we address things. And especially I'm talking now about e-commerce and post. And that's an area that needs to have very, very strong education and understanding. Why? Because people are sending things that are bypassing normal restrictions and conditions and regulations, and it's risking people's lives.
Well, I just think, that's it was an issue before, Chris. I think what's happened probably is, in terms of businesses clutching for revenue, looking at different avenues, or there may have been in some part or some ways the sort of the need to kind of not need, that's not the right phrase, but they may have not considered all needs carefully and all compliance requirements properly. And what is that phrase you always use? Consider all responsibilities every time. Is that right?
No.
Care. Oh, gosh.
Consider all responsibilities everywhere.
Everywhere. Thank you. I think that kind of approach needs to be front and center. Even if you are going after some new business, or even if you are sort of under revenue commercial pressures, which everybody has been.
Yeah.
Compliance is actually what will achieve this probably sustainable return to commercial profitability. One single event or multiple events will probably not endear future customers to your business, I suspect.
Yeah, 100%. So that's something that needs to be addressed by everybody, representative bodies, from regulators. Everybody now has got to be bold enough to say no and mean no, and anybody who abuses it or doesn't have the right level of declaration or information to people who are making those bookings got to be addressed and addressed very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good. Now another one, the slot waivers. Obviously that's something that's made people at least have a little bit of peace of mind, not having to worry about what they should or shouldn't do. I know you're going to have a comment on that, so.
Well, no, my only comment is it's given some airlines peace of mind, Chris, and it's given others the jitters. I think generally, as I've said before, I think the slot waiver is a good thing. Generally, it's a good thing. However, it must not be used in sort of perpetuity. To reward bad behaviours or reward commercially unviable businesses that can't restart, and we shouldn't be blocking applications or slots from being issued to those operators that can. Now, that's not just on a loan basis, because you can loan the slot or you can take the slot in one schedule season, as this waiver allows for. I'm saying that actually long term, if you can't commit to a return to use that slot within X period within the schedule season, sorry, you should lose it.
Yeah, but I think that'll come, Steve, because there has to be an easing back into the old way, but with a little bit of so that's good. Then another one, just so that we finish on a high note. Another positive one for me is PPE. In terms of even before COVID, there was guidelines. PPE must be worn, and especially in some of the locations that I've worked in over the last 15 years or whatever. And the audits that I've done, the excuses that I've seen, that I've got an ingrowing toenail, that my shoes rub, or it's hard to walk in these shoes. Far better to have a little bit of pain in the shoe than lose your bloody foot.
The chap with the pushback, Chris, and the sandals.
Oh my goodness me!
Do you remember those days?
Oh, for goodness sake! I mean, I cannot believe some of the things that I've seen, and I just think now, the PPE issue now should have brought a lot of emphasis to the fact that it's there for a reason. It's there to keep you safe, to protect you and protect others. Do it or don't come to work. And that sort of discipline and that sort of compliance is going to be necessary coming back, because the people who are in charge now and supervising and lead agents, etc., they've got enough on their plate when the volumes start coming back without having to deal with people not doing what they should be doing.
I think you're right. On a whole, I suspect that general society, the public, had no idea what PPE stood for previously. Why would they? It's not something in common parlance. I would say, however, that's changed, and most people you speak now will know what PPE is. I hope, therefore, that more sort of that wider understanding of what PPE is and what it's there to do, its purpose, let's say, means that there's a bit more self-responsibility taken by those that need to wear PPE, and that they accept why they're wearing PPE, and it's for the benefit of their safety and well-being at the end of the day. And that each time that you and I go back to that very large country in the subcontinent, the pushback driver is no longer wearing his sandals, and he's wearing his mask, and he's completely kitted out, and he's been blood and alcohol tested, because those things were always quite prevalent in that environment. I remember it was nothing worse than a pissed pushback driver, Chris, wearing sandals, I can assure you.
That was not bad. That was PPD. But another acronym for PPE, which managers should always be aware of, is please prepare everyone. And that's a manager's accountability. You shouldn't let people be in an environment if they're not prepared to be there. And PPE, okay, you know, what it actually stands for. But if they remember, please prepare everyone.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody in. Don't let them in. Don't matter who they are.
No PPE, no job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
3 strikes and you're out.
Exactly. So with PPE in mind for next week, please prepare everyone. Right, we got to come up now with a little list, and let's have a little tongue-in-cheek awards. You know, just to end what we consider to be this dark tunnel that we've been in for far too long. And as spring and summer is here in most parts of the world now, and hopefully good news.
Glorious day here in London.
Beautiful. Absolutely amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But touch wood, please God, for everybody. You know, things will be getting better. I know there's a few countries now that are having really, really tough times. So thoughts are with them, and hopefully the vaccinations will make a difference. But it's people that make the biggest difference.
Indeed, absolutely. Here. We'll drink that in the sunshine today in a house, a public house.
In a house, yes. Yeah. All right. Listen, lovely again. And Callum, you know, we did listen to your comments, and the usual mention goes out to James. So wherever you're running, James, make sure you've got some sun cream on, and
I tell you just about Callum. I saw something in the week, Callum Hogg, if you're listening in Qatar, that the amount of Iron Brew, Callum, that you purchased is unprecedented. Enjoy, but mind your teeth.
Yeah. All right, mate. Take care.
Cheerio.
Cheers.
So long. Bye-bye.